So in the last video, we looked at how we could create a platform that we could use tweens to move around. In this one, we're going to use animations. So I'll make a new scene. Let's look up that animated body 2D. There we go, animatable body. And again, for visuals, I need something to see. So I'm going to grab just a color rect again. Again, if you got sprites set up, set those up. I'm going to zoom in. Let's make it a bit bigger. Oh, about yay. And then the last thing I need is my collision shape 2D. And we'll make that a rectangle, since our platform is a rectangle. And then we'll zoom in, and with snapping enabled, right here, I'll just make sure that it fits. Now to make this move with an animation, I have to make sure I have the root selected, and we'll hit plus and add an animation player. And it really doesn't matter where it's located. I generally like to have it located above the visual. But again, it really doesn't matter. What does matter is that we have it selected. I'm going to come down to the animation button. I'll select it, hit new, and then I'm just going to call this one horizontal, because I'm going to move it horizontal. Now for the students in my class, this is the first time we've looked at the animation player. So there's a few basic things we have to learn about right away. First off, I'm at home, so I'm on Windows. If I hold down Control and use my middle mouse wheel, this allows me to zoom in and out on the timeline. I can use my middle mouse button to pan left and right on my timeline. And we'll take note that the timeline, this gray area, is how long your animation is going to be. And by default, it's 1 second. If we want to change this, we can come over to here. Now it's 2 seconds long. I can hold down Control, middle mouse wheel, and now I can see the whole thing again. Now you might notice this little blue bar coming down here. This is our playhead. This is where we are in our animation. We can click it and drag it, move it around. I miss a lot, so I'll just click to where I want it in there. Alternatively, you'll notice up here as I move around, we can type the exact spot we want it. So if I want it exactly at a half a second, I can do that. Beside this, we have our play controls. The one that we're going to be using the most is play, and all that does is play right to the end of your animation, depending where you have it set. If we were to hit it again, it'll start from the beginning. So we get our 2 second animations. Honestly, this is going to be a little long at 2 seconds. I'm going to break it back down to 1. I'll zoom in a bit just so I can see it, and take note that we can't see pretty much the first half. So I'll just drag it over, shrink it down. I kind of want to be able to see everything. And then let's go and add our first keyframe. I'm going to do this backwards because I want to demonstrate something here. So if my keyframe at the end here, and how do we know it's at the end? Well, it's at the 1 second mark. If I right click in here, actually nothing's going to happen because first we have to add our track. So a track is just basically a property that we want to animate on one of our nodes. So I'm going to hit the big plus button. I'm going to do property track, and we'll see we get a list here of all the nodes that we have listed over here. I want to animate the first part, the first node, the root node. So I'm just going to double click it, and then I want to just move it around on the scene. I could just search through here. What I want is position, but let's say there was a lot here and I didn't know exactly where it was. We can just type it in as well. Hit enter. Once you have it selected, it shows up. And we can animate more than one property at a time. If I were to come in and hit add track again, I can hit property track. Let's do rotation this time. And let's do color on the color rect. So again, if I hit here, we'll hit property. This time I'm going to double click on color rect. And let's just do color. And I want to point out, we have 2 different properties of this node that we're going to animate. And we also have 1 property of this node. So the properties that you're animating are always connected to the node. So it's kind of nice that it keeps things like that sorted for you. So if we had multiple things here with position, we know what position we're animating. But I want to keep this really simple, so we're just going to do position. So I'll just undo those. And now we can add our first frame. So to add a keyframe, we can just right click and do insert keyframe. And we can also grab these keyframes and drag them around. So if I were to come back here where it's at 0, I'm going to right click, and sometimes if I might be over a pixel or it's not exactly where I want, and I could have a hard time actually clicking it to get it to pop up. So I'll just go over here, right click, insert keyframe, and just move it to where I want it to be. And it jumped for some reason. That's fine. We can just move it back. Now I did it this way specifically just to show that we have this line that goes through here. This means that the property here, so our position at this point does not change to here. That kind of leads to a really boring animation. We don't want that. Now we could go ahead and just delete the keyframes and redo them. But since I've already got them set up, what I can do is I'm going to just select the root node because this is what we're animating. I'm going to slide my playhead all the way to the end here where we have the keyframe set. I'm going to open up the transform, and in position, I'll put 200 in. And then I can hit this little key here. And I usually have to hit it twice. Well, let's hit enter, make sure it's accepted, and then we can hit the key. And we can see that now we have an animation where the property, in this case position, is not the same from one frame to the other. If I were to hit play, it's going to go from the beginning to the end, and we can see it move. That's great. But what if we wanted to go back and forth? Well, if we come and click this, I'm not sure if you can really see it well. It goes from white to light blue. This is loop, so we'll just keep looping the animation over and over again. If we click it one more time, we get ping pong. So it goes from the beginning to the end and the end to the beginning. Let's add a little bit more movement to this. We have it as 1 second. Let's do half a second. And I'm going to come back to the position. And I'm going to move it down, let's say 50 on the Y. I'll go and hit the keyframe, and we can see that it added there for us. Now let's go ahead. We'll play it again. And I'm just going to let it ping pong. And now we have more movement. Again, you can add more properties, rotation, color, do whatever you want. But I think this should be enough to give you a rough idea of how to get it to work. So I'm going to pause it here. I'll save it. And we really should name it before we do that. Now, I know I'm going to be renaming this. So actually, I am going to leave it just the way it is, because I want to point out something that when we're using animations, it may not work the way you want. So we'll save it. I'm going to call it, we'll put it in here. I'll keep it as animatable body 2D. We'll give it a quick save. I'll come into my main scene, and I'm going to move the other one out of the way. And just so we have some sort of visual difference, I'm going to take my color rect. I'm going to make this one kind of a darker green. About there, we'll give it a good resave, come back into main. Make sure we have the root node selected. Animatable body 2D, it's up here. I'm going to take it, drag it down here. We know the animation kind of comes down, then back up again. We've got a few problems we've got to fix here. If I hit play, it's not going to play. Well, not play automatically from the start. It's also not in the right right place. And if I did have it lower and I tried to jump on it, I'd go right through. So let's make it actually play the way we want first. So I'll come in, make sure we have the animation player selected. And right here, you see the little A+ button? If we click this, that means it's going to play whatever animation we have selected here when it first starts. And keep note, you can add more and more animations as needed. So that's the first one. Again, if I hit play, it should start now, but it's still not in the right position. It's still up at the top here. In order to fix that, what I have to do is I'm going to select the root node, hit plus, add a node 2D. Because we're in a 2D scene, and I'll right click it, and I'm going to make it the scene root. With the node 2D, we can actually move that around and assign a position to it. So I'll come in, and now I'm going to rename this. I'm going to call it platform animation, because it's a platform that's being moved through animations. I'll save this off. I'm going to come back into main. Let's get rid of this old one. I really should rename the actual scene file as well, but I didn't. So I'll grab that animatable body 2D, make sure it's a child of the root. Now when I take it, I'm going to drag it down here. We'll hit play. It should start playing automatically. It should be in the right spot now. But now we got to fix it so that we can jump on it. And this really has nothing to do with the actual making a platform itself. This has to do with the way we've got our scene set up. Remember, our player can only interact with things that are on physics layer 2 and 3. 2 being the ground, 3 being our enemies. So if I select my animatable body 2D, I'm going to open up collisions. It does not need to interact with anything else. It just needs to be on either 2 or 3, and it makes more sense to be on the ground layer than it does to be on the enemy layer. So let's save this off. We'll go ahead, we'll hit play. And now we should be able to jump on it. There we go. Now we can make this move as fast as we want, and because it's the animated body 2D, we're going to stick to it. Can I get to the other one? Whoa, almost fell off. All right. So there we go. You have your first introduction to the animation player. And if all you need is just that one animation, you can make it as complex as you want. We don't need a script. But anyway, as always, I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.